So, according to the information up right now, apparently on June 30th, there was a conviction at The Hague for two people, one of whom was identified as an intelligence operative, accused of crimes in one village in Serbia. But no more, only one village. Whereas 6 members of the Guatemalan military were absolved last month. I see. Okay, well, I mean, you can say what you want. As far as I'm concerned, you didn't make it. You didn't make it. Intelligence operative, you know what this sounds like? Abusing your office in order to get political risk insurance. And so, actually, if you do the job you said you were qualified to get insurance for, you didn't make it. Right? And we also got another problem because today's a very major day here in Dallas where I think, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there a sixth spot of concern in Dallas? Yes, there is. Were they supposed to be coverage for those guys that you got off in Guatemala? That's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah, right? So just so you know, as I said, I'm not your fucking submarine. I never fucking was. And you got a real problem now because that's what you expect to get coverage for and credit for, right? So you got that. That's going on in one level. That's one of the direct things. But let's take this also to the other level. You want to get literal on here? I got a budget here. I already told you. I was defrauded out of $21,551.64 when you let that man in the other room and his little friends gamble on whatever the fuck you thought was more important when I tried to apply for a job at Whole Foods. Now, I don't know what all the other actual literal derivative. Oh, wait, I do, right? Because you guys had some sort of political project where you wanted to use lawsuits involving Amazon and Whole Foods to engage in an act of terrorism against San Francisco. And what, did you think you were going to be involved in some sort of proceeding where you got some sort of restitution for being defrauded? You owe me $21,551.64, which would not only have been applied toward preventative, by the way, preventative. That was your obligation to your European partners, including the ones that were a part of whatever you brokered in conjunction with commitments associated with the Committee on European Security, which would, I'm certain, have something to say about NATO and potentially future members of the European Commission or the European Union, right? Well, those are very important long term commitments, right? And so, if you actually were sincere and qualified to handle that level, then you would understand the importance of investment in preventative health care for women and children. But I was defrauded out of that because somebody decided instead they were going to trash my life in order to take what was supposed to be my tax return and turn it into a penalty. You got 12 years each on those Serbians. Did you take my $1,200 U.S. savings bond and double leverage it to get those two guys in Serbia to cover up for you and who else? Was it just an extra? The two people who saw you that could actually prove it was treason? Maybe a married couple you got to commit to helping you with your cuckolding? Is it something that you could just swap around? You got a timeshare on that kind of security? I don't know. You got all those scenarios. I'm saying I was defrauded out of $21,551.64, which was anticipated and expected earnings based on the schedule they told me to expect for a year, which also would have included acquiring a savings bond at the end of that time, while I also applied it toward not only investment in preventative health care, but recertification, radiation safety classes, one of which was to start on July 12th of 2021. Another one which was to start by October 25th of 2021. And a third one, which would have been online, that as of the time I made this schedule had not yet been determined, but my understanding was expecting to do something in either late August or early September. Then I would have needed the books that I would have purchased myself, I would have owned myself as part of what would have been necessary in order to participate. Then I would have had a process where I engaged in savings as well as paying for some accommodations here, getting my own food while I also contributed toward my preventative health measures. And then, when the time came, I was going to be able to actually acquire other supplies in connection with what I needed, right? And part of what I was going to need is I was going to need other reference materials that would be available, that would be the official, verified reference materials from the standards body itself, that would be the formal materials that would be a part of not only the education, but would also be a part of the recertification for my certificates. And so when you decided you were going to play around with me, I know it sounds kind of small. It's only $21,000, right? $21,000 for a part-time job is a beggar. But you decided instead you were going to leverage what? And meanwhile, you absolved leadership in the Guatemalan military of war crimes against indigenous women that I contend were actually used in the production of biological fucking weapons. Biological weapons. You're expected right now to get what? Are you expecting to get an award? Are you expected to be able to use it as some sort of tax waiver? Right? So that's just one thing, because then we got the other thing that's outstanding, which is through no fault of my own. By the way, I've been keeping all the benchmarks I needed to keep on this. But you guys were the ones that decided you wanted to mess around with this. April 27th, 2020. Did somebody decide 1 year later they were going to do an illegal derivative action in connection with my case and my LLC? Nobody ever notified me they were going to do that. April 27, 2020. Findings, conclusions, and recommendations dismissed with prejudice on April 24, 2020, but the notice was not provided to me until April 27th. Right? So if we actually go with that, then, well, let's see. Yesterday was supposed to be the final day to file, right? So that would have meant that the actual, it would have been what, July 3rd? Which is when you zeroed out what I had online. You killed me on July 3rd. I mean, it was so fucking cute, wasn't it? And then we got another one, though. See, this is the problem. Because today is July 6th, right? But what would have happened a month before yesterday? June 5th, 2020. Judgment. Ordered a judge and decree dismissed with prejudice for failure to state claim. Total fucking bullshit. Right? Apparently, bullshit worth $10 billion. Did you expect to get that for yourself?